I'm Bill Korak with the report card. We're in Tampa at the Board of Education building. Many groups are here for a press conference and school board meeting to protest the Council for American Islamic Relations speaking in Tampa schools. They say CAIR is linked to terrorist organizations. Terry Kemple of Tampa's Community Issues Council is the first speaker.
And the issue that we're concerned about is a representative of CAIR being in our school. CAIR is the Council on American Islamic Relations, being in our schools and speaking to our children about Islam. You're going to hear from a number of people here who are concerned about the school district's policies, or actually the lack of policies that would allow an organization that has been named as a Hamas entity and a co-conspirator in the largest terrorist funding trial that's taken place in U.S. history to speak to our kids in the Hillsborough County schools. In case you don't know, Hamas is one of the jihadist organizations that has been designated a terrorist organization by the United States government. Hamas uses violent means to impose Sharia law. The organization that we're concerned about is the Council on American Islamic Relations, and they're known as CAIR. CAIR is one of the organizations that uses a more subtle cultural jihad approach to impose Sharia law. But make no mistake, their end goal is the imposition of Sharia as the dominant law in America. Sharia requires that it be dominant and be recognized as the law of the land. Sharia prohibits women and non-Muslims from voting in elections. Sharia denies equality for women. Sharia prohibits freedom of religion. You'll hear these and other comments about the dangers of Sharia. These aren't idle speculation. They're supported by evidence that comes directly from the mouths of the founders and leaders of CAIR and from the official doctrinal writings of Sharia itself. And CAIR will say that they've been exonerated in the terrorist funding case. That's patently false. I'm here also as a member of a coalition of local, state, and national groups who are asking the Hillsborough County School Board to agenda this item for discussion and to implement a complete check and balance system that protects our children and our school system by ensuring that this type of thing doesn't happen again.
I'm Bill Korak, publisher of the ReportCard.org and producer of the Report Card television news show on Big Voices Media, with a focus on curriculum reform in our public schools. Our editorial policy supports teaching American exceptionalism, the contribution of our Judeo-Christian heritage to American law, and the supremacy of the Constitution as the law of the land. We oppose CAIR speaking in public schools because CAIR is an arm of the multi-headed hydra of Islamic terrorist organizations. If that were not bad enough, CAIR advocates replacing our Constitution with Islamic or Sharia law. The co-founder of CAIR, Omar Ahmed, said, and I quote, "Islam isn't in America to be equal to any other faith, but to become the dominant. The Quran should be the highest authority in America, and Islam the only accepted religion on earth." This is from an interview at the San Ramon Valley Herald. So CAIR wants to be dominant, thus violating the Establishment Clause of the Constitution, and CAIR wants to replace the Constitution with Sharia law. There's no way that Sharia law and the Constitution can coexist.
We're here today not to indict or condemn the Hillsborough County School Board. We're actually here because we all have failed to protect our children, starting with our parents not looking into textbooks, to the local community not being involved, and the school board as well as the Department of Education. We have allowed Hamas, the Muslim Brotherhood, and even Al-Qaeda to actually write educational policy in America and influence our children. How is it that Abdurrahman al-Amoudi, currently serving 23 years in prison as an Al-Qaeda financier and a co-founder, one of the founding leaders of CAIR, was able to write the educational guidelines with the ACLU under the Clinton administration and continue to be an ambassador to the Islamic community under the Bush administration? How is it that Shabir Mansouri, whose quote right here says, "I'm waging a bloodless revolution in America's classrooms," is able to put the content into virtually every textbook across the country regarding Islam? And how is it that another Muslim Brotherhood entity, ISNA, and the CIE are able to, in the Teacher's Guide to Religion in the Classroom, of the 17 organizations, the CIE, who's waging a bloodless revolution, is one of the contributors, as well as the Islamic Society of North America, who is also a co-conspirator in the largest terrorism funding case in U.S. history, who also petitioned the court along with CAIR and the North American Islamic Trust to have its name removed 3 times unsuccessfully. And lastly, we have CAIR Hassan Shibly, who has praised and defended Hezbollah, and he runs CAIR Tampa, an organization that is designated a Hamas entity in federal court influencing our children. I would say that as a nation we have failed. As a parent we have failed. As educators we have failed. And it's time for us to unite and to stand up and say no more to CAIR, no more to the Brotherhood, no more to Al-Qaeda, and to protect our children. And that's why we're here today. And we encourage every parent in this community to get involved.
Iron U.S. Education is a national organization. We formed a little over a year ago. Our slogan is preserving American values through education. We initially formed as the Textbook Action Network when we discovered that over 200 faulty, pro-Islamic, anti-Judeo-Christian excerpts in approved textbooks by the Florida Department of Education existed in our social studies books. We now are organized in 30 counties throughout the state. And our TAN, Textbook Action Network co-chairs and chairs, are now working with the school boards to try to rectify this situation so that these textbooks no longer are influencing our children. Our mission is very, very simple. We want to ensure that our children are taught accurate and factual information, that they're taught the American values that we have treasured since our forefathers first wrote the Declaration of Independence and our Constitution. We at Eye on U.S. Education will fight, and we will never give up when we discover that our children are being taught distorted and slanted information that denigrates what our republic stands for. We want our children to graduate high school knowing what our republic is all about, being able to vote intelligently, and not have distorted perceptions of what we are.